But we have even another dynamic host who's been in the public eye for the past 2.5 decades, Mr. Kevin Powell. He's a prolific author and activist, so it's good to see him on the scene. So yeah, we are ready to bring him on whenever he is ready, because we need for him to more people like him to talk about what's going on, and not just about what's going on, but the best way to leverage the energy. It's like capturing lightning in a bottle. If we don't get it now, I don't see another situation where all of us who are alive will be alive that this will happen again. This is something that's just once in a lifetime situation. So how do we capture this lightning in a bottle and use it as energy to propel us forward and make unprecedented imprint into the actualization of the American dream? So we are welcoming Mr. Kevin Powell right now. How you doing, Mr. Powell? Welcome aboard. Oh, you're on mute.
My bad. Hey, how you all doing?
I'm doing well.
How are you?
Whew. New York City's no joke. It's, we're in the epicenter of everything, but it's just I'm making it. I'm making it. Good to see y'all. Love rolling out. Much respect.
We love you too.
Terry, I read you all the time. Much respect to you. Munson, I got mad love for you, brother, always.
Always, forever.
Yeah.
Well, this is the show of the author, and not only of the author, but something that actually resonates and is relevant and relatable. But before we begin, I would like you to take just a few minutes to reacquaint yourself with our audience, to who you are and what you're doing in the book that just came out and why you decided to do that. So if you could just take a minute to reacquaint yourself with the audience, sir.
Well, I'm just Kevin Powell, writer and activist here in New York City. I live in Brooklyn. This is actually my 14th book. It's called When We Free the World. I feel very blessed and lucky to be able to say I haven't gotten one book done, let alone that many. I didn't expect that when I started. And I help people, brother. I'm out here. I've been out here as an activist for over 30 years in New York, around the country. And it's just really deep. I've been in the middle of these protests here in New York, and it's definitely supporting folks in other part of the country. And, really encouraging folks to get out there and vote and organize and actually know our history. It's just wild to see everything that's happening. And I'm sure you both know what I'm talking about. We've been through a lot of stuff. I became woke literally when Jesse Jackson was running for president back in the day, and the anti-apartheid movement. And, we didn't know that I never could have imagined folks would be having these kind of conversations, that you would see white sisters and brothers out there talking about, white supremacy. This is wild to me. But at the same time, I think about Dave Chappelle's special 846, and that special was deep, man. I've known Dave for a long time, but it's like you sit there and you watch that. And as Black people and Black men, the conversations that we have to have, and obviously what's happening there in Georgia, Ahmaud Arbery's, those three men were, are going to the next level in the criminal justice system, hopefully. And then, obviously, Rayshard Brooks. It's, Breonna Taylor. It's deep, for every bit of progress that we've made. Who am I? I'm the son of a mother with an 8th grade education. My grandmother could not read and write, and I don't take for granted that I'm a writer. Who am I? I'm just someone who cares about our people, man, and all people, and I want to help change this world and this country. And we're in a very serious situation right now. So that's what I do.
Mustard, you want to go over?
No, Terry, I'm enjoying my brother. Just, given we social distance, we can't hang out right now. You can't be in the city. You can't be at the gathering spot. We just got to be here Zooming, doing the best. So go ahead, Dr. Shropshire.
Well, I have too many questions to ask, and we don't have enough time to ask them all. But what I wanted to find out before we get into your book is the temperature. New York is normally the epicenter of a lot of different things that go on in America, whether it's corporate, political, social. If it happens in New York, it's going to impact the country. So with the triumvirate of epidemics going on, with the coronavirus, and then with police brutality, and then with mass unemployment, it seemed to just it's amplified in New York the city of New York and the 5 boroughs.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know what your temperature was. And this kind of took a lot of people by surprise how this particular situation resonated, the protest that, the people in New Zealand, people in Australia, people in London, people around the world were supporting this. So I just wanted to get your take on how far you think this can go in terms of enacting and helping to actualize real viable changes and not just another series of protests and getting mad and then the people get convicted or released, and then we go back to normal.
Well, it's interesting you asked that question. And again, Brother Shropshire and Brother Munson, Steed, just thank you for the opportunity. I have been a part of so many demonstrations and movements like this. I was down in Florida when Trayvon Martin was after that situation. I was in Ferguson when the Michael Brown situation went down. I was in the Gulf Coast doing relief work for over a year when Hurricane Katrina, that whole tragedy happened. What I think is different here, a couple of things. One, we have a racist, sexist, xenophobic, everything person as the president of the United States, Donald Trump. That, I believe, not only shocked a lot of white sisters and brothers, but I think it made them realize, wait a minute, we are in deep trouble. Something that Black people have known for a long time, that that we have to continually fight for justice, freedom, justice, and equality in this country. I think the second thing is just what his destructive behavior for these 3 years of his administration that he's been in office. I mean, he has no regard for anybody. We know that, And then obviously it's the pandemic, because it could have. I mean, let's look at it like this, gentlemen. We have now lost about 125,000 Americans.
Yes.
In terms of wars where we've lost Americans, and I think all of us can say we have someone in our family who has been in the military. I know I can. World War II, we lost 291,000 people. We are now on our way, I believe, by the end of this year, because of the neglect of this presidency, this administration, to surpassing the number of soldiers we lost during World War II. This is how insane this is. And then I think the third thing clearly is that video for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, where this white officer, Derek Chauvin in Minneapolis, is kneeling on the neck of George Floyd. And this gentleman is saying, I can't breathe, just like Eric Garner said he couldn't breathe in New York a few years back, and literally is calling for his mother, and then he dies. And I think that the combination of those things, have led to not just Black people, but brown people, red people, yellow people, and white people saying enough is enough. So I think it's the perfect storm. It's no different than back in the 1950s when you had the Supreme Court decision, Brown versus the Board of Education, when you had what happened to Emmett Till, and his incredible mother said, keep the casket open. I want the world to see, what they did to my son. Well, that video of George Floyd has been seen by the world, which is why you have protests from here to Atlanta to New Zealand, because people are like, this is horrific. This country that claims to be civilized and the most democratic and freest country, quote unquote, on the planet, would actually do this to a Black man.
Right. There could be no more denial that I've heard so many times, there's no real racism. Racism doesn't exist. We've gotten past that. When we elected Obama, we went into the post-racial era, and all that kind of stuff. So, I remember when he got elected. I remember I was on a plane and I was reading something, newspaper. We used to read newspapers, by the way.
Yeah, I still do. I love newspapers.
Oh, okay.
That's why I read Rolling Out. I love newspapers. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's what's up. And I remember they were talking about, we can retire Reverend Al Sharpton, we can retire Jesse Jackson because we've elected Obama and we're in the post-racial society. I remember that. I remember how angry I got and how irritated I got, because I'm just like, they just don't get it. But with that, George Floyd, unfortunate tragedy, as the life and literal blood seeped out of him, there was no more denial. You could not deny with the, calmness by which this man did it. It was just like, he didn't care. It was so callous, so malevolent, they can't deny it anymore. But anyway, I need to get to my question instead of trying to take up your platform.
If I could just respond to two things that you said that I think are so important, brother.
Yeah.
One, the image of this officer on the neck of George Floyd. Let me make it clear, as an activist and someone who's been out here as a leader for a long time, we're not anti-police. We're anti-police brutality. We're anti-police racism. We're anti-police reckless disregard for the humanity of Black people, of African people. That's the problem. And the image of him doing that to George Floyd is no different than white men just standing casually around a Black man dangling from a tree as if they're at a sporting event. Y'all know the pictures of lynching that I'm talking about. Yeah. That's number one. And then number two, when we talk about President Obama, we know that historically, whenever there's been any little progress for Black people in this country, Reconstruction after the Civil War.
Yes.
Backlash of white supremacy. And we know that Reconstruction only lasted 12 years, from 1865 to 1877. And then from 1877 all the way up into the Civil Rights Movement, white supremacy and terrorism. We know that with the Civil Rights Movement, 1955 to 1968, why is this important? Because as we're out there protesting and organizing and saying these things, we have to know the history. The Civil Rights Movement was 13 years, for the sake of argument, 55 to 68, when Dr. King was killed. What do we get? Civil Rights Bill 64, Voting Rights Act 65. Y'all know in Atlanta how important the South is to the progress of Black people in this country. And then what happened after that? The same kind of Black backlash that led to Ronald Reagan becoming president years later, and them trying to destroy every little victory that we had. Voter suppression didn't start now with Stacey Abrams in 2018. This was actually going on in the 80s during the Reagan years. This is when they were like, nope, we got to get rid of these folks off the, and what were they doing that? Places like Georgia, Alabama, across the South, where there's a huge Black population. And the same thing with Obama now. Whenever there's any progress, there's this almost like this fear, I believe, of some of the racist white sisters and brothers in this country that somehow they got in their minds that Black folks are going to do to them what they've done to us for 400 years, when there's no example of that in the history of this country. That doesn't even
But isn't that how an abuser does, or a person who's a philanderer, somebody who cheats on his girl all the time, and he's always checking on his girl? Ain't that how they act? Well, so that's kind of like an analogy there.
Well, it's a perfect analogy, brother Shropshire, because I've always said that the relationship is an abusive relationship that we're in. You know, who's more patriotic than Black folks? Who served in every war like Black folks have? Who shows up for the Olympics the way we do? You know, who stands up for the national anthem like many of us do? You know what I mean? Who worships God the way we do? Who makes music the way we do? You know what I'm saying? Who will actually invite someone into their church in Charleston, South Carolina, that they don't even know, not knowing that this young white man is about to murder 8 of them? You know what I'm saying? And then after that happened, who quickly forgives him? I'm just saying, if Black folks were evil like that, come on, you know what I mean? And so I do think what's happening is that the white sisters and brothers that you see in Atlanta and around the country who are out there protesting and saying Black Lives Matter in a way we could not even imagine, I think their humanity has been tapped in a certain kind of way. Now the challenge to them, and I say this to all of the sisters and brothers who call themselves white, this can't be just for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. We deal with this our entire lives. Are you going to make a lifelong commitment to fighting for justice for all people in this country, or is this just a passing fad? That's the challenge.
Now we need to get to your book. Excuse me. The essay, I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free, is, man, that is so powerful without even reading it. Because I can feel, you know, it's just like, how would it feel to be able to walk down the street and you see white people and not feel their energy, their negative energy. When you walk into like a restaurant or whatever, or a Starbucks, as I do, and they all look up at you as if they're scared. Or how would you feel knowing that if you got pulled over, you'd have nothing to worry about because you got your driver's license, you're allowed to drive, and you got your registration. Nothing's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So that's a powerful, powerful statement in and of itself. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. How did you come up with that?
Well, I want to shout out, obviously, I want to shout out Dionne Farris, my sister friend who's lived in Atlanta for years, one of our great singers, because she's made a version of the song back in the day. Obviously, Nina Simone made a famous version of the song, and it came from a brother named Billy Taylor, one of our great jazz musicians. He wrote it for his daughter back in the 1950s, and it took on a life of his own, as I'm sure y'all know, in the 1960s during the height of the Civil Rights Movement. And that song, that was actually going to be the original title of the book, I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free, but then I shortened it. One of my fraternity brothers, I'm an Alpha, and he said, what about When We Free the World? I was like, word, that's it. But I knew I wanted to keep that title for the song, for the last essay, because, I mean, look at it. You're an accomplished writer, Brother Terry. Munson's an accomplished publisher. I do the best I can out here with my little career. And it doesn't make sense that we can go outside of our home space and not know if we're going to come back or not. you know, just because of who we are as Black men. It makes no sense, you know, that the Trayvon Martin go get some Skittles and some iced tea and not come back. It makes no sense that Tamir Rice, who would have turned 18 today, you know, is out there just playing cops and robbers like we did when we were kids. We've been born to play games, and he's not making it to 18. And so until we can live in a society, you know, what I say now, gentlemen, I don't care about being equal to anybody, because I don't want to be equal to mediocrity anyway. I want to be treated humanely. That's the real word for me now. It's not about equality. I want to be treated humanely. I want to know that I can go anywhere and not worry about getting killed if I'm Ahmaud Arbery just jogging. And I'm a runner, gentlemen. That's why I got this cutoff shirt right now. I'm a runner. And I've run in areas where I'm like, man, am I going to get killed just because I'm jogging? And then I see the video of him and these gentlemen just, I mean, they just,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you're saying, man. Every time I walk to the gas station or walk, trying to get more exercise, which I haven't been doing very much. I was a member of a run club. And so I tried, but the run club has been shut down because of the coronavirus. So I tried to walk once or twice a week. And every time I go walking, I'm thinking, it's on my mind. What if this is the time? What if they stop and they try to say that I look like somebody? What if there's a car full or a truck full of racist white people, armed white people? Is that the end for me? So I'm thinking about this every time I leave the house. I shouldn't have to do that. Not in America that I defended when I was in the military and as a military cop. I should not have to think about that when I defended you and my people built you and my people made you look good and we put you on top. We made America, so I should not have to leave my house that I built and be feared for my life because we made you what you are.
Thank you for your service, first of all, brother. And what you just said, I mean, it's so bad that even when I leave my apartment, I live in an apartment building here in Brooklyn, New York. Even when I just go downstairs to the lobby to check my mail, what do? I always go back and get my wallet because my ID's in there just in case. Even when I'm not leaving my building. That's how paranoid I am as a Black man. You feel what I'm saying? Because of all the stuff that's happened. And no one should have to live like that.
No. And to go back to your equality point, I'm glad that you brought that up because I agree with what Malcolm said. He, you know, it's just say, you know, God did not put me on this earth to be equal with somebody else. That is a waste of a life. I am not interested in being equal with white people. Okay. Like Malcolm said, we had equality back in the continent of Africa before white people were even in existence. And we want equality today, whether white people are on this earth or not. Equality simply means that you are able to take your dormant capabilities, your dormant skills, and exercise it to its maximum potential without burdens and without barriers. That is equality. There's no such thing as equality. You know what I'm saying? Just like I can write like nobody's business, but I can't publish like Munson can. I can't write books like you can. I'm not a producer like our producer TJ is. No, we're not equal. So equality simply means freedom. We want freedom. Freedom to live the American dream without any interruptions, without any wrongful barriers. And it is ridiculous to think that I want to be, my goal in life is to be equal with white people. You must be crazy. That is preposterous.
You know, human beings, humanely, you know, be able to move freely. I mean, think about if Rolling Out didn't exist. Think about if Brother Munson didn't have the vision to create this. I mean, the opportunities that are given to Black writers like yourself, the spaces that are given to Black folks like myself, you know, because we're not even seen as human beings and therefore, you know, worthy of being in certain spaces, which is why you see Black journalists up in arms all over the country now at these mainstream places. Why you see Black folks who work in theater in New York City up in arms. You see Black folks in Hollywood up in arms because people are like, you know, you all say you believe in diversity and inclusion, but you really don't. You're not practicing it because you don't see the examples of us in all these different spaces. Meanwhile, as you said, if you take away Black folks, you're not only taking away music, you're taking away athletes, you're taking away physics, you're taking away science, you're taking away many inventions, including the traffic light. You're taking away great bodies of literature. You're taking away great business minds from Reginald Lewis to Munson Steed. You're taking away, you know, Atlanta. I mean, you're taking away so much. And so imagine what this place would look like without African-American people. As you said, we built the economic infrastructure of this country, you know what I'm saying? And in spite of everything that we've been through, just the resiliency of our people, you know, which is incredible to me. And I just think that this is a profound wake-up call for this country because all eyes of the world are looking at us. I've done a lot of international interviews over the last couple of weeks, and people are like, what is happening here? And I'm like, well, what is happening was it's always been here. But what Trump has done is just pulled back the curtains completely and said, here it is. He's really the Wizard of Oz. And we really don't, we really don't care about, and it's not just Black folks. They don't really care about anybody, because if we just look at the fact that they're cutting the funding for coronavirus testing, and the virus is not over. The virus is not over, you know? And so it's a reckless disregard for people. And I want to quote one of your native sons of Atlanta, Georgia, Dr. King, who said in his Vietnam War speech in '67, part of the problem is that we need a radical revolution of values in this country, you know, because we believe in things that are thing oriented, as he said, instead of people oriented. I'm not saying people shouldn't make money, shouldn't make a living, get your house, do whatever you got to do, take care of yourself. I want to be able to be all right when I get older. Of course I want that. But I'm not going to put things, you know, ahead of people. People come first for me. That's how I think about this. But we've got to twist it, which is why you see all this destructive behavior where people are tripping about things that shouldn't be important when we should really be caring about each other. That's how I look at it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
That's the point of the book, by the way.
Yeah, and that's a good segue to my next point, because we need to talk about your book. And I don't know if I was taking up Mr. Stuck.
No, it's all relevant.
If you had some questions.
Conversation. I think it's your brother Terry. I love your passion and your genius. Seriously, brother. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Got me fired up.
No, thank you. It's just that, you know, it's just this situation has given me an opportunity to say what has been in my soul for the last 30 years. When I started being an activist in the 90s, and I was saying these exact same things, but no one was listening, no one was hearing about, you know, just equality, like equality equal with who? Wait a minute, we're the descendants of kings and queens. I want to equal with what? Who are you that I need to be equal with? You are not the criteria or the yardstick by which equality is measured. You come from us, as your own scientists say, that we are the mothers and fathers of the universe. So why do I need, if I birthed you, then I need to be equal with you? That is backwards. So, but anyway, let's get back to the book. What did you want to convey, and what is your reasonable expectations of what you would like to get out of the book? Well, or the readers to get out of it?
Well, as I said, the book is called When We Free the World, which is kind of an adaptation of I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I've gone through a lot of personal struggles in the last couple of years, which I lay out in the book. Very deep, heavy stuff that happens to us sometimes that can, you know, unfortunately take us out. And I've had some very serious soul searching around it. And I wanted to write something, you know, there's a letter to an unborn child. If I'm blessed to become a father one day, you know, what kind of world am I going to bring this child into? You know, I talk about a very frivolous and racist lawsuit that me and my wife dealt with in Minnesota, of all places, ironically, just 2 years ago, where it was some sort of bizarre email sent to her, and I traced it to someone in Minnesota. The next thing I know, a lawyer is hitting us up, suing us for somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million for quote unquote defamation. And we literally ended up on trial in Minnesota, the same Minnesota where George Floyd was killed.
Really?
You know, oh yeah, it's the last chapter of the book. It's the essay, I wish I knew how it would feel to be free, is about the Minnesota situation and how this white lawyer named Aaron Scott used the criminal justice system in a very racist way to really shake us down for money. Our lawyer even said to us, our second lawyer said to us, that he saw you, Kevin Powell, thinking that you're a celebrity author, celebrity writer, or whatever perception he had of you, that you must somehow have Jay-Z money, and therefore you know we're going to sue you. And we ended up on trial, and we actually lost. We actually lost. A white woman Republican judge and a all white jury except for an Asian sister. It was the most egregious thing I'd ever seen in my life. And it was so bizarre that the white sister who sued us through the white lawyer actually got on the stand and said that the email that I sent defending my wife made her feel like she had been quote unquote raped, and that this was her Me Too moment, quote unquote. She actually said this is in the transcript. And so I said, as a writer, as you know, Brother Terry, we have to tell our stories because these things are so bizarre that go on in this country. And so you can imagine, fast forward 2 years, when I saw George Floyd, the video of George Floyd in Minneapolis, St. Paul, I said, well, look at this. Isn't this profound? I was just in Minnesota being accused of all kinds of craziness. You know what I'm saying? And then the chickens, as Malcolm X said, have come home to roost.
Yes.
You know, and so that the book is about, when I say freedom, when we free the world, it's like, again, are we going to treat people humanely? You know what I'm saying? And are we going to lie about people? And when you see people, challenging the statues around the country, challenging Christopher Columbus, challenging all these things that have been, like, I'm getting attacked literally as we're doing this conversation right now. I did an interview with Yahoo yesterday where I talked about the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, and they asked me, well, we talked about songs that could replace it. Obviously, if Lift Every Voice and Sing, John Lennon's Imagine. Well, guess what, gentlemen? Literally, as I'm sitting here talking with you all, I've got racists attacking me on social media and sending me emails telling me that I'm unpatriotic, un-American. Of course, I should go back to Africa. And how dare you threaten the national anthem? Meanwhile, Francis Scott Key, who wrote the national anthem, was born into a slaveholding family. The third stanza of the national anthem, which they conveniently leave out when people do the national anthem, actually supports supports the oppression of Black people. He references slaves. And on top of all of that, we know that Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Washington, D.C., who went aggressively after Black and white people in the 1820s and 1830s who were attempting to end slavery in this country. This is who wrote the Star Spangled Banner. But because we have a lot of people in America, as y'all know, who don't read, who don't study, who don't travel, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They just make up stuff. Don't even know basic American history. You know what I'm saying? Don't even know basic American history. No. All they repeat is what's been given to them. Meanwhile, people like us actually read on a regular basis. Yeah. We actually study. We actually travel. We have conversations like this, exchange of ideas, and I would like to believe that you and I, all three of us, we're rooted in love. I don't hate anybody. Like, I don't hate anybody. But what I do hate is oppression. Yeah. What I do hate is racism. And what I do hate is injustice. And so that's what the book is about. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's about.
Well, different, the one thing I want us to think about, we have a section that talks about a seat at the table. I do want to say this about the oppression of Black media, Black-owned media, Black-owned media.
Yes, sir.
If Disney can write off $500 million, write off, for Vice. 500 million, Kevin, written off for Vice. And we only got 10% of what they wrote off.
Right.
10% divided by the Black-owned media companies, $50 million. Puffy got what? It would change everybody's perspective in a competitive way.
That's right. That's right.
In a competitive way. I'm more on the KPIs at this moment. Terry can tell you that. I think it's absurd that you have written 14 books. You have more than proven that you should be on television, have a $2 million to $10 million writing deal so you can go away, pause, and give us your best. Our ask in this moment has to be for those companies who've given deals away. We can't erase. This is the moment to review.
I agree.
And to create new KPIs. Because for me, it's a tragedy. No, don't pay us in 90 days. Because we can't pay one bill, not your light bill, not your cable bill, not your any bill, your Spotify bill. But as businesses, small to medium, Black-sized businesses, it's 90 days. So for me, when I see a brother like you and you got 14 successful books, I'm like, publishers, what are y'all waiting for? What exactly do you need? A kidney? A lung? I'm confused because our Black intellect, there aren't 20 of you, bruh. Not 20 that have struggled, not 20 that know me. I mean, you got some special Negroes, but where is Kevin's MacArthur Fellowship? See, those are the things I'm asking. It's cool that y'all pick some people that are out there, but where is the activist that isn't obscure, that isn't afraid, that knows this community. That's my hope for you. Not that you got to keep writing a book, but you can pause and bastion in your own intellectual paradigm and smell a moment of pause. So I want to see the Kevin MacArthur fellow. That's not a big ass society, because I think they too have also focused on African Americans who are not tethered intensely into social change or investment in our community.
I agree.
And I think we've got to say that even to these foundations, that let's reassess your relationship with what is Black.
Yeah.
So that's my hope. I love all your books. That's the thing. But for me right now, social change and why Kevin has to write so much and can't pause for 5 years, 4 years, and be able to really see, world, all that is inside of him without having to write another book. 14 books in 30 years is a lot for a giant like you. That's like getting a little bit of yourself out when you really just want to sit back and talk to Dr. King and hang out with Malcolm and come give the youngins something that will alter their genetic makeup in their mind, because you know what they need. You know, no guy, people, you talking about a book, but no guys have been there and pushed for young Black men like you. Come on, MacArthur fellow, we got one right here. We need one. I need one. Terry, I know you need one. And we could get you and Terry. I wouldn't be so bad. Terry might make me alone, you know. But when I see you, that's more of what I'm saying. I'm like Random House, doing inventory.
Yeah, it's profound.
Do a partnership.
Yeah,
make it a partnership. I even got Apple News.
Yeah,
Apple News.
Yeah,
make Kevin an editor, and then allow him to make partnerships with Black media.
It's profound what you just said. I mean, first of all, I want to say that I love and appreciate you, and I appreciated rolling out from the very beginning. One of the things I said to my publicist, Billy Johnson Jr., we gotta always do Black media. This is what I came up in. I would not be a writer if it wasn't for the Amsterdam News, City Sun, Afro-American newspaper. That's how I got my start. So I will never forget where I come from. That's really important to say. And we have to support our Black-owned institutions. You know, I would say probably 90% of the folks that I work with are Black individuals or institutions, and that's intentional because I want to circulate that dollar in our community, not in other communities. And I'm not apologetic about it because I know I live here in Brooklyn. You know, there's a Chinatown, there's a Hasidic Jewish community, and they shop amongst each other, they support each other. So I'm simply doing what we did in Atlanta, Auburn Avenue, what we did in Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, what we've done in Wilmington, North Carolina, Detroit, Washington, D.C. It's the same thing. That's number one. Then number two, you're right. It is, Brother Terry, to answer your point, pivoting off what Brother Munson just said, what's the book about? I'm tired. I'm very tired. I've been doing this since I was 18 years old. That's a long time, over 30 years. And it's thankless work. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I didn't have the vision, that Brother Munson had when I was coming up in the 90s, where to start it takes a lot of courage to start a business, to start a company. Now I have a company, have my own business, but I don't do what he does. I wish I would have had the wherewithal back. I didn't, so I commend people like Brother Munson who have the vision to say, I'm going to create a platform, because that's powerful. You know what I mean? And I think that, you're right, because it's like we're out here. My people from South Carolina. I'm born in the North, but I was raised as a Southerner in the house, and I was told not to self-brag, but I do think about it sometimes that I've got 14 books. I'm in Generation X, and I don't really know too many white folks, of any male or female, who can say they got 14 books. I don't, you know what I'm saying? And just in this year alone, I've published, I did a cover story for Washington Post magazine on Stacey Abrams. I got a couple pieces in the New York Times this year, and I just been grinding, and it feels like it's always been a grind, because it's like, that thing that you're told when you're growing up, you got to work twice as hard. And a lot of it has to do with the racism. The industry that Munson just referenced, the publishing industry, the fact that outside of Chris Jackson at Random House, there's barely any Black males in the publishing industry at all, those so-called mainstream houses. You know what I mean? There's no Black male editors. Agents, literary agents at all. And so unless you have the vision of a Munson Steed, and I'm going to start this publishing company, I'm going to publish my books myself, you know, most of us are like, wow, what do we do? You know what I mean? So you're constantly grinding, and it literally beats you down. You know, I remember when I was younger and I would see brothers who were in media who were in their 40s and 50s literally dropping dead. I'm like, how did so-and-so just drop dead like that? Now I understand.
I understand.
It wears you down, constantly trying to make things happen. And, you know, and I agree with you, because
being an advocate for African Americans can be hazardous to your health, brother, if you are not fortified in your spirit and have enough support.
Fortified. I believe in therapy. I go to a very progressive church in Harlem. I got my spiritual healing circles. You know, I'm a vegan. I'm a yogi. As I said, I'm a runner. I take care of myself holistically because I think about all the things outside of us that affect Black men every single day. Yeah, and Black women, but I'm speaking as brothers right now, to us as Black men. And it's catastrophic to our mental, physical, and spiritual health. And so we have to figure out ways, you know, to win, not just survive. We know how to survive, but how do you win? And that's critical. And I do believe the answer is ownership, which is what Munson is about, and which I learned to become about, which is we have to own something, a piece of property or a business or both in our lifetime. So you have something that is safe for you, that's yours, you know, that is away from all of this madness that Munson's talking about, where people either don't appreciate you or act like you never existed in the first place. And I've never been one to even talk about my books a lot, but I realized I started saying the number of books because people would say, oh, you got 2 books now. I'm like, no, it's actually 14, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, it's also, and it's not just me. I come out of a tradition, Langston Hughes, Zernell Hurston, you know what I'm saying? Amiri Baraka, Pearl Clegg, Nikki Giovanni, I'm Maya Angelou. I'm clear. I don't exist if it wasn't for those folks. I'm real clear about that. You know what I mean? And I have a responsibility to my mama and them to keep producing no matter what, because we have to, just like y'all do with Rolling Out, y'all tell the stories of our community. I'm not just saying this because I'm on this show. I read y'all every single day. I love it when I get the alerts in my mailbox, because I'm getting a perspective that is from us as opposed to these other people. Does that make sense, y'all? You
all day long.
You know what I mean?
Kevin, we got to take you back. We're going to be doing a series called A Seat at the Table.
Yes, sir.
And we're definitely going to talk about the literature and the publishing side of this business, and really creating a set of KPIs that people can get. And even to the point where you and I should talk to Medium on, okay, what's the collab? We can't just take our culture on. What's the collab? It's nice you support that. Jack, support something really Black. All right. We appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Much love to you. Tell everybody where they can find you and the title of that book again, because we want them to find you.
It's called When We Free the World. Right now, it's exclusive as an ebook on Apple Books. Please check it out on Apple Books, When We Free the World. It'll be out in the fall as a paperback. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Kevin Powell in Brooklyn, Kevin Powell in Brooklyn. And thank you, Munson, Terry, Rolling Out. Much love to y'all. Peace to y'all.
Much love, bro. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.